Trading the foreign exchange market carries high risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Trading on margin, utilizing leverage can carry an even higher level of risk that can lead to a complete loss of investment funds. So before deciding to trade the foreign exchange market or using any of our software alert products, you should carefully and diligently consider your personal investment objectives, level of experience, and risk tolerance. There is a possibility that you could potentially sustain significant loss. You should not invest any capital or trade that you cannot afford to lose. It is your responsibility to be aware of and understand all risks associated with foreign exchange trading and to seek professional advice from an independent certified financial advisor if you have any doubts. Auvoria Prime does not exercise trading authority over your trades. You and you alone exercise discretionary trading authority over every trade.
Looking at today's Tuesday, we have a little bit of AUD GDP, as I'd mentioned on Saturday. In addition to that, we have some events going on, GBP, NZD, GBP being the currency that, has really given some of these pairs some problems over the last week or so. I actually have not been trading it, although honestly, I think that was probably more luck on my part, just given some of the stuff I saw going on there. Just wasn't really acting well in most charts with most pairs, so I turned it off. For one of the questions that I just got, there's a Q&A window. If you could just open it up, you could post the questions in the Q&A window. That way, I can knock them out one by one. Yes, hello, good morning. What else I want to say? So US dollar related events, the big ones, some of the biggest, I should say, is non-farm payrolls, which is typically the first Friday of every month in the US. This is usually a very high, if not the highest impact next to any central banker speaking publicly. And that's the story there. So just be aware and all that. Do note that this chart here, for those trading the US Canadian, keep in mind this is a 4-hour chart, but it looks to me like we actually could have a reversal in place. You could see the small head and shoulders pattern here with what's called a descending wedge. So bullish above certain levels like 2750 for potential move all the way back up to the 2950. So I thought this was a nice little post on this. I wanted to share with you guys without marking up all my own charts. So just keep in mind that if you're trading anything related to this. Let's jump back into the charts. DXY, sorry about all the fib lines. I'm gonna erase all that stuff. Move back to the daily chart. DXY, let me just reset the price scale. All right, so here's been most of the year, no surprise, sell off in the dollar, devaluation based all upon the stimulus packages, which are putting our country further in debt. And it's sad, but we have to work with the market that we're given, not the one that we want, right? So we had this resistance line right up here at the 9150 area is really presented a fairly formidable wall over the course of this year. So anything coming up against it just sold off and gone back down, right? So I would expect us to stay in this range, for the lack of any larger piece of monetary changes or surprises to the marketplace. We're sort of playing it cool. If you want me to look at particular currencies, I see you guys have posted a few. I'll take a look at those as well. Let me just go through these majors here real quick. Nothing much going on really in Euro US dollar land. Again, the reversal that you saw. Remember, this is almost a complete flip of this. Not 100% inverse correlation, but it's close. Still stuck inside the same range that you're seeing on the DXY and the downside. Euro GBP, now we got, and this really put some pressure on a lot of counts. And, for those that allowed trades to be put on in multiple higher levels and sequences, whatever software you're trading, this is why a lot of these big levels pushed us back up, which is cool. So it took some of you, I heard from some of you, out of some drawdown. Remember, when you have those higher sequence trades, they're obviously scarier, they're larger, but they are designed for this type of snapback that we've seen. Now, granted, this is day 3 after a wild 2 previous days last week, right? And hard to determine at this point, other than what I talked about on Saturday, more than likely a visitation I would expect down to this 85 level. So just for point of reference, US CAD on the my type of technical analysis chart, looking like on the 4 hour, you see the little head and shoulders here that we could potentially go back up to this really big 2950 area that I'd mentioned. It's in a slightly different or more condensed version over here. Just looking at the Fibonacci retracement lines, but ideally you're looking for patterns for bottoming. You're seeing a breakout of a potential downtrend, in this case a descending wedge, albeit not the best spot, but it's still a descending wedge, and we could break from that, in which case gonna barbecue some shorts that are short the dollar here and long CAD for a run back up. All right, so Bitcoin, not gonna comment on this too much, but I always seem to get asked for these charts. Let me take a look at GBP NZD. Again, let's just go back to daily here. Sorry. Start with Bitcoin daily. See what's going on. I would say the corrective moves probably back down to the 30,000 area would be potentially decent for an entry, maybe a half entry or quarter entry, depending on your capital. Take a look at the GBP NZD. Still stuck inside a long balancing area or wide range here, just range bound essentially between these levels. Let's also take a look at what else before I get into the Swiss stuff. Now, note that we poked our head, albeit earlier. Let's take a look at the 4 hour chart. We poked our head above that area and we were met with selling. A pretty decent amount of selling at that. So if we jump back to the daily chart, you can see how this 200 SMA lines kind of holding us, which is almost perfectly timed from the reversal to the previous ranges, support and resistance levels from a high and low standpoint. Came right back up against that. So as we move into GBP, CHF, let's take a look at that. This thing's been nuts. Daily, let's jump back to weekly. Again, we're looking for maybe a retest back into this area would be my assumption. Typically when you have a rip into an area and a big reversal, right? At least intraday, you're usually going to go back up and visit that area again. And this is the case for a lot of different instruments that trade out there, whether it be options, equities, futures, certainly Forex. A lot of times you want to revisit that area, especially if you had a huge rip into that area or some sort of zipper up through that area. So just note that. Let's drop back to the daily. Can't get any real on this. Just keep dropping to a higher time, or keep backing up essentially to a higher time frame. So looking at the weekly chart here, pound Swiss, I would probably say, because this was a pretty important area that I would expect us to spend some time balancing, maybe building a little bit of a base. How long, how wide, what's the duration? I mean, I have no idea the answers to that stuff. So, but it certainly could revisit the high of this peak. That's a big move. We've already had a big move. So typically the markets want to digest this and begin to build a little bit of range. Who knows? There could be so much stops up there that you just want to go up and get them, right? In which case we could rip to this area. I don't know that that would happen this week, but I would expect, since we've got a lot caught off guard, if you will, with this move, right? No surprise if you're doing your chart work correctly that we came up to resistance line, blasted through it. Notice the low of that candle held this support line, right? So it only just makes sense, at least on a weekly chart, that we begin to move higher into this area. All right, let's see what else. USD JPY. Let's take a look at that. Did I show CAD CHF? Let's try that first. All right, so notice if you compare these two on these weekly charts, similar patterns. Forget about the price. Just look at the patterns here. See these two? Similar patterns where we came up against these on a weekly. And in the case of the previous one I showed you, we've poked above it, so would expect a move higher. Same thing is going to apply to Canadian dollar Swiss as well. I would probably look for a move at some point, at least on the weekly chart, up to the 76 area, which is obviously far away. But we've got to get through a little bit of congestion here, but you know, it could move and just sail up to what is a very big resistance point, right around 7615 area, 7600, somewhere in that area. Let's drop back to the daily. You can't get any color on this other than where the gap down, you know, so sort of the gap and run. I don't know if you guys can see that here, but we're testing that point, right? Now, if we had a market profile or some sort of time-based aggregated chart here, you probably would be able to see inside here that there's what's called missing notches inside the profile. It's nothing more than just a thin trade as it blew through that area, right? So a lot of people wouldn't read much into that, but it's actually a big thing that if you break out of whatever pattern you're in, it's almost always going to go back and try and fill those notches in, right? It's what's called an incomplete auction, right? Now, I can't really verify that because we're looking at a daily chart and I don't have the right technical indicators overlaid, but once you've been doing this long enough, you begin to recognize there's probably some missing notches in here and that, you know, the market's going to probably try and go back and fill that, which it looks like it has. So somebody for now, can't say that to be the case later today, but somebody's defending this level. Okay, they've done it once, and arguably a little bit today as well, but they're defending this level. Now, if they're defending it through another currency pair, that's sort of a pin action off this. Let me just drop back to USD CAD. AUD CAD as well. Daily chart. Now let's jump back here. So that would be my assumption. We spend some time balancing in this area, you know, which sort of argues that maybe we're not trending. Maybe if I'm using variable, I can use the regular sideways motion or its regular settings versus being on trending, right? That's what you could argue for in a situation like this if you think we're going to be balancing for a little while. GBP, CHF, did I already do that? Yeah, I already did that. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the USD JPY. Now, I've talked extensively about this. You could see the, I don't know, my poorly drawn, but this is a great example of a stepped down trend that we were in for quite some time that arguably established itself right around here, right? And continued to touch the top of the trend line as it moved down. You could have actually had whatever software, if it had a trending settings, in trend this whole period of time. Now we're trending up, right? So I think I drew these lines last time. I probably forgot to save them. So this trend's not looking quite as broad, but I could be wrong on that. It could broaden out. You draw these trend lines They don't have to be perfect. The whole idea is to give you a visual representation that more than likely, if we come back down and touch this area, we'll probably bounce. Conversely, if we come back up near the top, as this range begins to build itself out, right, we'll probably come back up near the top, stuck in range. Once you're done that, let me just save this. Once you're finished with that, always go to the weekly on this so you can see some clues for the longer term time frame. Just isn't a lot of stuff to go by, These are the big areas on the, let's go back to the daily. See, we've already cleared all the moving averages too. So we've reestablished trend up, which should continue, I would assume. Really see anything. I mean, here was a resistance point. We're at that, didn't seem to be paying too much attention to it. Here's another big resistance point, 107.50 area. So just keep in mind all that stuff. We very much could go to touch this area. What else? All right, so now that I probably have my largest participation here, I'm going to jump over into a discussion on brokers. Okay, so this is a question we get a lot. Just understand that, Auvoria Prime's not a broker. We can't see inside your brokerage accounts. We just license software and we build education, right? I sound like a broken record with that, but it's true. And let me shift over to the PowerPoint screen. I want everybody to see. So a lot of the credit for sort of, slapping us across the face and getting us educated and, really paying attention to what's going on with one's broker. I give the credit to Tyler Mack on this because he really has shined the spotlight on this area. And, he continues to make sure that everybody in Auvoria land is understanding the difference between an A versus a B book broker. Okay. So any broker that claims to be an STP, and that's just for straight through processor, does not mean that they're a book. Okay. There are a lot of brokers out there, and some recently have come to light that, they're playing the quote hybrid model. So just understand, if a broker's B booking, they're taking the other side of the trades, they're gaming against, of varying degrees of, algos that are trading, right? Essentially they're playing the B side, right? The danger of that from a risk standpoint is that, if they take the wrong side of somebody else's trades that's going really well, it could blow up the entire firm, right? And you lose your capital, right? It's a problem from a risk standpoint. This has happened a lot in the past. I'm not going to get into specifics, and you do enough Googling this and you guys will see this. But I think it is absolutely critical that you deal with a broker that is not a straight through processor and B booking liquidity provider, right? So essentially one of the easiest ways to tell if a broker's B book is that they pay out more or close to as much in commissions to the introducing brokers, right? Or to the introducing person that has brought a whole bunch of accounts in, right? So because on an A book, the only way a broker makes money is the spread of the commission. They can't make any money any other way, right? So if you give me an example, maybe this is easier to understand. Maybe I'm just going to confuse you more, but when you execute a trade for Apple Computer on the NASDAQ, right? Symbol in Apple's AAPL. I'm not going to show the chart, but when you execute a trade and you're in, anything other than like a Robinhood or a firm that isn't charging commissions, the incentive of the brokerage firm in terms of acting in that custodian / transaction processor capacity is that they earn a spread or a commission. In some cases, both, right? So you're buying Apple at 102 and 10 cents, right? And maybe the broker bought it at 102 and 6 cents. So the spread of 4 cents, if you will, in the purchase of a single share of that stock is where the brokerage firm makes their money, right? And all the algos that are maybe out there trading Apple Computer, which there's a whole bunch, obviously, globally, as high frequency trading. Imagine all those hedge funds, essentially, not only are they executing your trade, but they're also gaming against you on the other side, right? That's kind of what's going on with this. Maybe not the best example for it, but if a broker's paying out more than the spread or the commission, is really a good sign you should run. So as I've talked a lot, and I'm not going to get too much more into this because this is an incentive for you to go into AP Academy and watch my whole presentation on brokers. Okay. Just understand that the hybrid model, and there's a couple of them out there that do the hybrid model, and they will swear up and down that they are essentially A-book brokers, but they're B-booking, or they have the ability to B-book, which basically means they are. There are firms out there, and a number of them come to mind. If you were to just Google top A-book broker, you'll see a list. So many of these are, right? And a lot of the largest ones out there, the ones you need to stay away from because they have a lot of B-booking operations. It could be very profitable versus just being an execution house, right? So the top people in your up and down line, they do know who the brokers are that don't mess with this, and just talk to them about it. All right, what else do I want to address? Question on this. I want to make sure everybody gets this as well. That's not it. Let's go here. This is the master list of social media channels, all the Telegram channels. Make sure you share this list with as many people as possible. It's coming into the chat room right now. This list is updated a lot. It's great. It's a master list. It shows everything. All the places where you can see my ugly face speaking. And in addition to the AP Academy, which is the big one. So as you log in to the AP Academy, you'll begin to see all the videos we talked about. We're making some changes to videos, obviously. I do know that I spoke with Dasan. If you guys are not a member of the Variable Traders chat, I think they added that to the list. Did they? Yeah, maybe somebody could tell me that. Because there's Variable. So probably should have looked, huh? If anybody needs the Telegram channel link to Variable Traders chat, just let me know inside the Q&A window and I'll post it to my Market Watch channel. I could do that. Just make sure if you're inviting people into the variable room, just keep it professional, right? No crazy videos or any of that stuff. Just keep that. And I love how open this group is. Dasan and I are peeling through this. I can't answer all these questions because many of these I don't know the answer to. It's just him. But it's a place to sort of voice your opinions or questions, or maybe something you have as some suggestions for improvement. I know he likes feedback from that respect. Just make sure of any problems that you're having, you file a Zendesk ticket so we can collect data instead of put the question in there. So I'll go ahead. So we've had some requests here and post the link to the Variable Traders chat. I had these guys, I asked these guys to add this to the list. Let's see. Am I missing something here? Yeah, I don't see it. I'll have them add it to the list. I'll have Susan or whoever do it. Bill, guys in the back office, have them add it to the list. See if there's anything else I want to address here. S&P. What else? Did I go over your JPY? Yeah, I did. USD JPY. I don't know much more you guys want me to elaborate on this. I mean, it's pretty much it. So it's a daily chart. We're trending up now. I would think if you're trading this pair, I don't know what the win rate on this pair is in variable, something I don't have memorized. I sort of let Dasan handle all that. Make sure you check to see I have no idea what the win rate is in this thing. But right now it should be in trending mode if you're trading this in variable. But check that with, oh really? Let me switch over. Still showing his damn PowerPoint. Screen 2. So here's USD JPY trending up, daily chart. Till further notice, it's probably going to be hitting the 107.50-ish area. Not much more I can elaborate than that. What is this? Notice the candlestick charts you posted the other day. Are you talking about? Let me see if I can drag this in here. There's some of the Telegram things we're going through. It's bananas. Talking about this stuff. I don't know. If you're asking what the sources of this, I don't know. These get passed all over the internet. These are actually really good. These have been out floating around for years. All these patterns are good. I'd print these off and just memorize them. That's what I did. Take a picture of it with your phone, just walk around, look at it. Do what I got to do. Good stuff. I have, if you ever don't feel like going through all the baloney, you could just click on Market Watch. You can go to the photos only. I don't know if you guys know how to do that in terms of sorting through the list. And, like if you want to see like basic candlestick formation patterns, right? I got a lot of pictures out there that are related to this. Don't forget about our new boy on the list, just so you know. I'll start talking a little more about NEO as I get educated, but I love the fact it's only one currency. That's great. I don't have to mess with any of that. What else? And then obviously the most important, which I put every week in the traders notes, they're in the AP Academy. This is your crash course in macroeconomics. That's great stuff. So, all right, see what else. Another request for USD. Let's make sure we're double checking this. The question one has to ask themselves is with this currency pair is number one, what's the win rate been on this inside of whatever software you trade? That's the first question I always want to know the answer to. And is that a win rate that was presented to you by a developer or just somebody else? But a lot of this stuff is back tested and or run on live accounts in a system called Quant Analyzer. And you want to be able to see the data on that. I don't have access to that, and you'd need to hit up whatever developers is giving you that information to see what data they pull from. I know Dasan is like myself. He is crazy anal about the quality of data in any test he does, just like I have. But I don't do a lot of back testing anymore. I used to. But we're in a trend up. I mean, it's that simple. So if you have the type of software or the settings that are set for trend, then you stand a much better chance than some martingale setting, which I wouldn't have been on with this currency either way down or up. I would have been on a trend setting. I know those would be optimized more and more depending on the software and the developer. I would say that some patience will allow a better trend-based. I think ideally in a perfect world, we don't have to screw with that. Just let the software figure out where the market's in a sideways base or balancing pattern, or if it's breaking out from some point and it's beginning to trend up, right? I'm not quite sure we're there yet. What else? CHFJPY. Did I do that yet? Let's take a look. All these damn currencies are running together. in my brain. So let's start with the daily chart first. Holding solid support here. It's 116.20-ish area. Real solid. We break that, it's game over, guys. There's no way I'd want to be in front of any longs, in my opinion, if we break below this, period. Because we're probably just flashing down to the next area, which is this 1540-ish area. Do you do this long enough, and you guys won't even need me. You'll be able to, because trust me, I'd rather teach you how to fish than just catch the fish for you, right? But it's not difficult to see where the support and resistance levels lie, which is almost perfectly at this 200 SMA line. Probably going to rip into this area because I can promise you those big institutions that are trading this for some sort of long-term play, they got tons of stops set down here. I mean, look, every time we've come back down to this area, boom, we've bounced. Who knows? We may continue to bounce and head all the way back up to the 119 area, right? It's possible. I mean, that would be the best outcome for a martingale-based system, or if you're accepting trades, be accepting both, but accepting longs when we break through this, not my cup of tea. Take a look at the weekly. So 114 at the bottom. Poked our head above this line on the weekly and essentially just went all the way up to the same areas where we've zipped out into in the past. So 1860 on the high side, weekly chart. Right around 14 on the low, 114. Be my analysis. All right, folks, short and sweet. Love it. If anybody's got any questions, anything, let me know. But do yourselves and your up and down lines a favor and spread the word. Maybe I'll get some Auvoria stuff to get on camera with Saturday. Got my hats, my shirts, right? All I need is a backpack when I'm going to the gym now. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to mention. Everybody have a great week. Don't B-book it, A-book it only. And I'll wish you all a safe and fantastical trading week. My name is Steve Vetterl. Today's the 2nd of March. Off the mic.